Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and talk about why the iPhone X is still an insane value of a phone in 2021. Now, one of the things that I've looked at probably since last year, the year before, and the year before when this thing came out, is the fact that this thing, the design wise, is something that's going to be holding up insanely well. When you look at phones like an iPhone SE2 or an iPhone 8 Plus, because of the design of those phones, they're not really going to be holding up that well in the long term. So that is a very important thing to keep in mind. So when you have a phone like an iPhone X, I said back in 2017 that you were going to be future-proofed for probably like 5 to 7 years in my opinion, and it's looking like that may be the case. With the iPhone 13 that's coming out in September, it's looking like the notch is still there, and it's still looking like it's going to be roughly the same size. It's going to be decreasing in size though, so the notch is going to be a little bit smaller, but the feeling of the phone, the look of the phone for the most part, still is almost exactly the same if I'm being honest. The body of this phone is still something that's extremely awesome. It feels really good in the hand. You have glass back, stainless steel bands, like it feels really good, and especially when you consider the price tag of this phone, which is only like, I think like last time I checked, it's less than $300 in some places. That is an insane deal in my opinion, and it's almost like a no-brainer. If you have to go pick up a phone, you're coming from like an iPhone 5 or something like that, getting an iPhone X is a really good deal in my opinion. Now, as I mentioned before, the screen of this thing is still one of those areas that this phone is killing it in. When I look at the iPhone X display and I look at something like an iPhone, 11, if I look at like an iPhone 12 display, there's very little difference, and in some cases I kind of do prefer the iPhone X's display. Even though it's a little bit smaller, it looks better in most times than whenever I'm using that specific display. So I think that's another really important thing to keep in mind. So I think just besides the notch and the feeling in the hand, the screen itself with the OLED capability still has Face ID, no 90Hz or 120Hz like any other iPhone. When compared to the iPhone X to these other iPhones, the newer ones, there's very little difference if I'm being completely honest. They're almost exactly the same thing. Now, one of those areas where I would probably recommend people to go and update their phone to is the performance area. And with the iPhone X, you're still getting a really good performing phone. Like, this is not a bad performing phone by any means. It's going to be extremely good. Like, it's not going to be slow at all. One thing that I've always tested whenever I got an iPhone X, or really whenever I get any phone, I always compare it to an iPhone X, most recently with the Galaxy S21s. And even though these newer phones are faster, it doesn't necessarily mean that these older phones are slower. It just means that these phones are just not as fast in my opinion as the Galaxy S21s. Like, yes, they're slower than these newer phones, but they're not slow phones. They're still pretty fast phones, and as long as you're not comparing them side by side to another iPhone 12 Pro or any other device for that matter, you're going to be perfectly fine, and I really don't think it's that big of a deal. As I mentioned before, any single thing I've done with my iPhone X, I've had a pretty solid experience with it, and when you consider the price tag as well as the feeling in the hand of the specific devices, it's going to be a solid phone for sure. So that is honestly one of my favorite things about this device as well. And another thing, to top it all off, this thing's still going to be getting software updates for a very long time, probably within the next 2 years. That's when we're going to kind of start seeing this thing be outdated. But the iPhone 6s is still supported. The iPhone 7's probably going to get iOS 15. The iPhone 8s then could be getting iOS 16, and that's when we could see this phone getting unsupported. But from what I've heard and just kind of my assumptions, I'm pretty sure this thing is going to be getting the same software updates as the iPhone XS. I've been saying that for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to end up happening. So that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.